what if you could get your hands on a toolkit, one that wasn't just for, managing stress, but for actually freeing your mind in a fundamental way? Well, today we're diving deep into an ancient text that promises exactly that, a systematic path to a really profound and lasting kind of freedom. Okay, let's get into this. So, right out of the gate, this text makes a huge claim. It says, these 7 perceptions lead to freedom from death. And you're probably thinking, what on earth does that mean? Well, I can tell you, it is almost certainly not what you think. Okay, so here's the big reveal. This isn't about physical immortality or living forever, not at all. It's about psychological freedom. It's about liberating yourself from all that mental anguish. The stuff that's driven by our deepest fears, our endless cravings, and that story we're always telling ourselves about who we are. So where does this radical idea come from? It's from a text in the Buddhist tradition called the AN 749 Sutta. And you should think of it less like a piece of scripture and more like an ancient instruction manual for your mind, a guide to achieving this inner liberation. And listen, we're not talking about some abstract philosophical concept here. The sutta lays out a super practical toolkit, a set of 7 distinct perceptions that are designed to systematically retrain the way your mind automatically reacts to the world, to your desires, and ultimately to itself. All right, so here they are, the complete 7-piece toolkit. We've got the perception of ugliness, of death, the repulsiveness of food, dissatisfaction with the world, impermanence, suffering in impermanence, and the big one, not self in suffering. We're actually going to break these down into 2 main groups. So, these first 5 perceptions, they are all about tackling our attachments to the outside world. All the stuff we're constantly chasing after and craving. Now, this is what's so cool. The text uses this incredible metaphor to tell you when it's working. It says a well-trained mind, when it comes up against a harmful attachment, should just recoil. Instantly. Naturally. Just like a feather shrivels up the second it touches a flame. It doesn't fight it, it doesn't analyze it, it just pulls back. So tool number 1 is the perception of ugliness, and the Sutta is incredibly direct about this. This perception is developed for one specific purpose, to counteract the mind's powerful automatic pull towards sexual intercourse. Okay, next up, the perception of death. This one goes way deeper. It targets our existential craving for life itself, that deep-seated desire for our own existence to just keep going, what the text calls the desire to be reborn. The third tool zeroes in on something we all deal with every single day: food. The perception of the repulsiveness of food is designed to counter the mind's simple craving for tastes, that raw sensory pleasure we get from eating. And then we have tool number 4, the perception of dissatisfaction with the world. This one tackles our fascination with what the text calls the world's shiny things. Materialism, endless entertainment, all the distractions that are constantly pulling our attention outward. The 5th perception, impermanence, is all about helping us deal with the pull of status and recognition. The text says it helps the mind draw back from material things, honors, and fame by really seeing them for what they are: fleeting, unreliable, and temporary. Okay, now we're going to shift gears. The final 2 perceptions turn the focus inward. They target the much more subtle and, you could argue, way more powerful psychological patterns that trap us from the inside. These last 2, these are the heavy hitters. They don't deal with things out in the world that we desire. They deal with the very structure of our inner world, our laziness, our apathy, and our very sense of self. And for this section, the text uses a second, even more intense metaphor. It's brilliant. It's meant to create this sense of urgency. The idea is, when you notice that apathy or laziness creeping into your mind, you should feel a sense of immediate danger, like you're suddenly face to face with a killer holding a drawn sword. That feeling of danger? That's the whole point of the 6th tool, the perception of suffering in impermanence. It's a powerful antidote that reveals the true peril hiding in what the text calls sloth, laziness, slackness, and lack of commitment. Basically, it's a massive wake-up call. And that brings us to the 7th and final perception, not self in suffering. This one goes right for the root of the entire problem, the ego. The text says this perception gets rid of I-making, mine-making, and conceit. It dismantles the very foundation of that separate, solid self that we feel like we have to protect all the time. So you've got this incredibly powerful toolkit, but how in the world do you know if you're actually using it right?
Well, the genius of this system is that it has a simple, built-in way to check your own progress. This isn't about having blind faith that something is happening. The Sutta gives you a clear, observable test you can run on yourself. You don't have to guess if you're making progress. You can literally see it in your own mind.
And this is the test. It's brilliant. When you apply one of the perceptions, let's say ugliness, does your mind still get drawn toward sexual desire? If the answer is yes, the text says that perception is undeveloped. Simple as that. But if your mind automatically recoils, if it shrivels up like a feather in a fire, then you know it's well developed. It's just a simple binary check, yes or no. So what this ancient toolkit is really offering is a way to fundamentally rewire your reality, not by changing the world out there, but by changing the very lens that you see it through. All right, let's just quickly recap the big ideas here. Freedom from death is really just freedom from suffering. This toolkit of 7 perceptions is a system for countering our most stubborn attachments. And your success is totally measurable. You just have to watch how your own mind reacts. The ultimate takeaway? By changing how you see, you completely change how you experience life. And that leaves us with one last question for you to think about. Looking at this entire toolkit, from tackling our cravings for food and fame all the way to dismantling the ego itself, which one of these perceptions, if you could truly master it, do you think would most radically change your world?